So welcome everyone and hello and welcome Holly. Hi.
Hi, Eva.
So thank you for joining me here today. And if you guys don't know Holly, she will introduce herself a little bit because it's a new format now. So I'm not doing this whole shebang there. So if you can tell us a little bit more about yourself.
Absolutely. So I'm Holly online. I think everybody knows me as Holly Fae. It's my middle name. And I live in California. I've lived in California all my life. I love it here. There's so much beauty and inspiration. Nature has always been an inspiration of my art. So I think that's one of the reasons that I'm so happy here. I've been doing art since I was a little kid. And I've gone through various ways to incorporate art into my everyday and into my life. And so now I have a few different businesses rolling, and all of them happen to include art in some form. And that's pretty much it. That's me.
That's super cool. I mean, not that I'm jealous about the California, not at all, but I think I will go visit you soon. But anyway,
You should.
so what made you start, with art, or was it already like in school that people were maybe telling you like, oh, you are the kid in class who can draw, or what kind of made you to take it into more professional life?
Well, as a kid, I have been doing it for as long as I can remember. I have my mother saved old drawings she has that I made when I was like 4 years old. My doll, and it has, you can just see like a little head and a little circle and things like that. So it's just always been something that has needed to come out of me. And definitely in school, there was always the kid that did art. But it was nice because I was an only child, so I did art a lot because I was, quiet all the time, and so I could do art. And then in school, it helped to make friends a lot, sometimes because we moved a lot. So I would go, if I was at a new school, I would just kind of hang out and be like drawing and like wait till somebody came. And invariably, if you're an artist, somebody will always come and be like, "Oh, did you draw that?" So of course, I'd be like, "Oh yeah," and then it helps to find, who are the other kids that are interested in art and that type of thing. So it's always been a good sort of social engagement in that way.
A
Um,
conversational starter.
yes, yes. So it's always been there. And I was fortunate to be homeschooled. So I graduated high school early at about 15. And so I couldn't go to college right away. I was
Yeah.
just a little too young. So I had a lot of opportunity to get a hold of resources. We even had a friend who was a college professor, and so she was able to get me some, college level books. And I was able to start to teach myself, the principles of design, the elements of design, all these type of things, and just really explore. And I had some family members and people very close to me that encouraged me a lot. So I was given Photoshop and Corel Painter, and then encouraged to start to learn graphic design. So with some graphic design books, and then that way I was able to help the family business.
Yeah.
So that was my first real, art out into the world experience, was with the graphic design. So making promotional materials, and I started learning how to do websites and things like that. And as for the drawing, I just always was all the time just drawing, like in my free time. I had my sketchbook, one of those kids with the sketchbook everywhere, and just draw. And I was always doing pencil all the time because I am mildly colorblind. And so I found that out when I was very young. So it's just something I kind of, grew up with.
Yeah.
But I felt a little bit apprehensive sometimes about working with color, just because, I understood that which kinds of things I was missing. But I was a little bit apprehensive to, just like try to tackle it without making something.
Yeah. So rather starting with
Yeah.
pencil than like going full on with colors and values, and yeah, not
Yes,
sure if it is
yes.
what you wanted, right?
hmm And so, I started to study a little bit of color theory to try to conceptualize it. And then someone gave me a book that's called Blue and Yellow Don't Make Green.
Oh yeah, yeah, I
And
know it. Yeah,
have you
yeah.
read that one? Yeah, I
Yeah.
loved it. And, when I first received it, I was like, well, no, it does. I've studied. What is this? This is not. But, I have always been, I've always really loved science. And so, studying, I always was really into astronomy, the human body, these kind of things. And so when I read it, and obviously for the people that don't know, it talks about wavelengths of light and how light reflects off of objects and how we perceive it and everything. And it was just really intriguing, and it gave me an entirely different perspective. And so then, I started to conceptualize more, okay, well, if I want this color to appear and I need to mix it, then I'm going to know conceptually what I need to mix and more or less how much in order to achieve what I want. So I became a lot braver in terms of color, and I started working with acrylics, and yeah, I really got into more colorful art. I mean, people who see my art now, they know it's very bright,
like a lot of colors. Yeah,
colors better. Yeah,
yeah.
It's like, wow, it's so bright. And I'm like, wow, that's how I like to be able to. That's how I can see it clearly.
But
so
then,
yeah,
were you still doing at the same time, like traditional art and the digital art? Because you mentioned like the family business, graphic design and web design, and the traditional art on the side, I guess, or?
yeah, I think I did more with the traditional art while doing the graphic design, and then slowly I got into trying the digital painting, which was so different. I mean, people always have this idea that it's like, oh, you press a button and it makes the art, and every digital artist knows that that's not the truth. Yeah. So it was kind of a slow thing, the digital painting that happened over time. I did a lot of like photo manipulation. So, I mean, I will say I'm pretty skilled at, combining photos and making things look real and that kind of thing. And so that came before the digital painting.
Yeah, and so what do you do now then? As if you can share, basically the most of your time, and kind of what you have maybe on social media, or kind of how do you separate those?
Right. So, well, after that happened, we also opened up an activity center where we had different activities, and I was teaching art to kids. So that was a really lovely experience. And then on the side, I kept doing the graphic design and started doing it for other people as well. So, now it became a source of income. I was doing menus, websites, all these types of things.
Can I stop you here? Because a lot of people are usually like, oh, I started here. But, everyone is then asking, like, how did you start? Like how the first one came, or who asked you, or did you do the first one for free? Or, this kind of like little bit of like, how did you start with that?
Well, because we had a lot of our own designs, because my family also, we, have like multiple businesses going on. I guess it's just something that's always been a part. So I had a lot of examples, and then we would actually go directly, like we would find out, what was the new place that had just opened, and, let's go there and be like, hey, you need a website. Look, here's the work that I've done. We've created this, and we can create something for you. And of course, you start out a little bit lower, but then as you get more clients and more portfolio, then you can raise it up from there. And it's important to interact a lot with people, because you never know, you can meet somebody that knows someone else that needs something, and so the more that you share your art and bring it out, the more people will become aware of you. It kind of makes like a web in a sense.
And then they can recommend you to their friends and so on. So basically the first ones, you go to that person, you do your research, basically what is new in the town or online or whatever. And, or actually I heard, this is like side note, but someone told me it's a good thing to look on Amazon who is publishing new books and then ask them if they need something.
Oh, there you go.
Because it can be also like a online business in some form. And then you start like a little bit cheaper, right? When you were starting out, and then when you have more demand, then you can build it up.
For sure. And then, you get faster too.
Yes,
so it's good to be able to charge more and do the work faster as you get better and better. Yeah. And I mean, like for people who are starting out, it's important to especially in graphic design, to connect with the people that are, wanting your services, to understand what they're about. And there's so many different levels of art, whether it's art for communication or fine art and all these different things. And, if you meet with people, you can find out where they are and kind of how they think, their type of personality. And then you can translate, because usually when people are asking for something, they don't have a very clear vision, but they have something that they want.
Yeah.
And then you can understand that from them and then combine it with your knowledge of the different levels of art and then, make something. And I think that really makes a difference in getting a really happy customer
Yeah.
and then getting more jobs. Yeah.
So then, did you define for yourself that, okay, this is what I can help people with? Like, did you do some kind of like a mind map at the beginning, or you were like, oh, I can do graphic design and blah, blah, blah? Or, did you go to specific customer like, okay, you have very crappy website, like in a nice way, but, I can help
Yeah.
you with this, because you need this. So you kind of went with direct proposal, right? So not like, oh, I can help you with something. I don't know what you
Right.
need, right?
Exactly. Like, you gauge what they want and you say, what you need here is people don't know what your food looks like. It's just text. And when people see an image, they order more food and that kind of thing, or you need more warm colors to make people feel happy and lively or, I think it's just all kinds of things like that. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. Oh, super
So we
good
did
tip. Yeah.
that for a while, and then while teaching the art classes to the kids, which I loved and miss a lot, but um, then we moved and decided to take a little bit of a different direction. Like I mentioned that, I've always really been interested in science, and I've also always led a really like natural lifestyle. We've never really used in my family like allopathic medicines or pharmaceuticals and things like that. Just always very natural based. So, after having so many interactions with people and everything and becoming close with a lot of people, like in the classes, for example, start to see how doing art was really benefiting them in different ways, in their health and in their mental and emotional health.
Yeah.
And then taking all that I really loved about, anatomy and science and things, and we started to meld that together. So now we do like a natural therapies.
Yeah.
So I started to study. I have certificates in things like biomagnetism and some other elements, and then we start to combine the art because when people do art, a lot of the time they feel when you give them a pencil or a paintbrush and say, here, let's do some art. They always have that like insecurity or that self-doubt, or like, oh, it's not going to be good. Or, I couldn't make a circle. I failed, and and through working with people and teaching and seeing how by giving them a little bit of a different approach, they can actually really let their creativity blossom. So we've seen how with the natural health, a lot of the things that people have, a lot of the ailments are related to something emotional. Yeah. So whether that's it could be a self-esteem issue or a self-doubt or, just feeling depressive, and all of that leads to issues in the body. So we've been honing a method where we, gradually do the art with the people and allows them to see where, if you make a mistake, you can correct it. Or if you want to build on something, you can build on it. And, you can make adjustments, and that you can do that in life too, not just in an artwork, that it's not, one try and then you failed. Exactly. And I think a lot of artists probably struggle with that as well. A lot of artists are so hard on themselves, and it leads them into depression and things like that because they're constantly in that state of mind where they're trying to, do better, but they don't feel that it's good enough. Yeah. So we found that through doing it in a really nurturing way, that it helps people to, blossom that creativity, which gives you all these great hormones that, make you feel better. And so that's really become the major focus of what I do now. And then in my free time, you know how it is owning your own business.
This idea, yeah.
Yeah, it's not like 9 to 5. It's like you're always doing or thinking something.
So when you are not sleeping, basically.
Exactly. Then I do art on drawing or painting or my iPad. And then on the side, I also have like an apparel business that I make the designs on the computer, and then they're printed out on fabric and sewn, and so that a little bit of that too. I had a love for fashion design since I was a little kid. That was what I thought I was when I was 6. Like that's what I was going to do. But later when I got into learning how to sew and all these kinds of things, I was like, no, I just want to design. I don't want to be the one like sewing it.
Like actually making it. Yeah.
So now I just do the designs on the computer and they're printed, and it kind of gives me that outlet while also, supplying to a niche community for apparel. So,
Yeah.
yeah,
I
so
was
all,
thinking about that as well when I was like younger. I was like, I will do fashion design. And then I was like, oh, you have to actually do it?
yeah,
I'm like, no.
exactly.
So like I can sketch it for people.
Yes.
And so when you mentioned the health side of your business, right? So the health, how would they call it? Classes, right? Or is it like get-togethers? Or how does it look like when you work with someone?
It's usually one-on-one. It's like a
Mm-hmm.
well-being method, you could say.
Yeah.
So, we utilize the magnets. We
Mm-hmm.
utilize the like natural elementary
Mm-hmm.
suggestions. We do like acupressure, like acupuncture, but without the needles. We use other tools, things like that. And then the art is a part of that as well. So it's like a global thing that encompasses, lifestyle changes and everything. So it's kind of like, holistic. I guess that's the word. That's why they use the word holistic, right?
And so how do people find you? Like, is it people who are like not well with their like mental health, or is it after some accident when they want to kind of look into inner self, or what is your kind of positioning, where what like type of customers do you usually have?
It could be all of the above. Usually it's people who have looked somewhere else and haven't found, what they're looking for to, make them feel better, or to make them feel more balanced. And then somehow they find us. We do a lot of networking just by like word of mouth.
Yeah.
So a lot of people, once they've been with us for a while, they'll recommend it
Yeah.
to a friend. And, so it mostly goes like that. We have a website and, we've gone to some different conferences and things like that. So a little bit of networking, but mostly it's just by word of mouth. Um,
So what is your website if someone wants to check it out when they're listening now?
it's, it's thekeyofliving.com. But key is spelled Ki, which in Japanese, right? Japanese is the energy, like the chi. So
Yeah.
it sounds like the key of living, but it's the key of living.
Ah, cool, cool. Also,
A little.
so then basically you do like ongoing process with people, right? So it's not like one session, but it can be like half a year or something like that.
Right, right. Yes, absolutely.
Oh, nice. So how do you then find the time for art?
Like I said, mostly in
Yeah.
the evening. Sometimes, on the weekend, I have time to paint when there's sunlight. I don't like to paint in when it's not light because I really need to, see as much as I can of the
Yeah.
color.
Yeah.
But I recently got an iPad, and now Procreate is really great because it can be dark, but I can have my screen bright, and there at 10 o'clock at night, just relaxing and sketching.
Yeah, yeah. I always feel like also like promotion for Apple. Like I
I
always
know.
with my iPad. But yeah, it's kind of useful.
It really is, yeah.
That's true. And so when you were mentioning also the merchandise with the, the apparel, how did you start that? Did you start with one design and then you kind of, because it's a very complex project to do apparel.
Yeah, well, I hadn't done social media ever. And then when I started doing like, I had some jewelry that I was doing, and I was doing like the Photoshop, uh, what is the word? Like photo manipulations for people after we moved, and it was just like an on the side thing to kind of enjoy. And so I put it on Facebook and Instagram because I heard that that's the new way to promote art. And I didn't realize that there was really this huge community of art. And then also I found a huge community of mermaid lovers and professional mermaids. And I've always loved mermaids since I was a kid. Just living by the ocean, it was something that, I don't know, just this idea. I always love like fantasy things, fairies, mermaids. And so it's just something I've always drawn a lot, especially because I love the like flowing lines, that underwater can allow you to really have no sense of gravity, and you can really, make the lines however you would like. So, so I started to come across these people, and I noticed, especially in the apparel, that there were a lot of mermaids that they had issues with their outfits. So like they had shell tops and things like that, but it was uncomfortable, or it would give them weird tan lines, or certain people at kids' parties would want them to cover up more. And so I thought, why don't they have like a one-piece swimsuit that looks like mermaid scales, and so that was the first piece that I made, the one that looks like it looks like skin, but then it has mermaid scales on it, so it's like that illusion. And people really loved it. And they were like, "Hey, do you have it, in this style? Do you have it in a bikini? Do you have it in a bodysuit? Do you have it?" So it was like I start to just find more resources for how to get them made, and just started to make more and more. And now I'm working on leggings to match and rash guards and everything. So it just kind of really grew, and it gave me a way to have that, wanting to do fashion. But then to also really fill a need that this community that I love had. So it just kind of happened organically that way.
And sorry, and you were doing it by yourself, or then you outsourced it to someone to the swimsuits, or who is making now the outfits for you?
Well, I do the design and then I outsource the sewing, so that because I would not have time with my schedule to be able to sew. So this way it allows me to, do the design, the creative part, and then someone else can sew it and print it, sew it, and then ship it for me.
But the first one, you did it by yourself, or did you right away outsourced?
No, I right away wanted to do it outsourcing. So I had them, ship me samples and check on the quality and try different ones. So, yeah, I mean, definitely there's an investment that you have to make in the beginning, even if you're doing like a print on demand or something like that, because you have to, try and see if you want the good quality to see where it is, but then it pays back itself over time. So, but yeah, definitely in the beginning, that's what I did. And when I make new products, I still, I don't work with just one company as well. I work with a few because, this company has this quality of this item and another company has a better quality of a different item. So, yeah.
And so how do you find the good one you want to work with? Like when you did your research, or kind of how did you decide?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
So how did you decide on which company, or,
yes.
how to find them?
Yeah, I mostly just did Google searches. I'm like the Google queen in my family. Like if somebody can't find something, they're like, "Can you find it for me?" Because I like to really dig. I think it's just part of my personality. So, I'll have like 10 or 20 companies, and then I'll start to go into all the details and lower it down, and then again, lower it down. And so that's just part of my process. I'm not sure why I'm like that, but, it helps. And so, yeah, just, I always have so many questions, and whatever company, will give me a good customer service that that I can communicate with them right away. Yeah. And then, trying the samples, whoever I like the samples from, and whoever I see that is adding new products, someone who's not just like a stagnant or like a one, like we just do t-shirts or something like that. Like it needs to be someone who's also trying to do more. So those are what the factors that I look for.
So what would be maybe like the keywords you would search at the beginning, like company making outfits? I don't know.
Yeah, like apparel printing manufacturers, or like print on demand manufacturers, something like that.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, because if someone is like, I have no idea where to start,
yeah,
that's always a good thing. And so now how do you split your maybe the week or day, like percentage wise, if you would say, like the art business, health business, the merchandise, or social media, or kind of how does your week look like?
Well, it's mostly focused on the natural well-being business throughout the week. Mm-hmm. Sometimes we have people on the weekends, sometimes on the weekdays. We really try to accommodate, our clients' schedules. So it kind of moves around a lot, but mostly during the day, I'm working on that. And then in the evening, or if I have like a day off, then I'll, get in some apparel work, and then some painting or drawing. That one mostly, I make a business out of it because I get the art commissions and those things, but it's really just something for me to like relax and express myself, so it's something that even if I wasn't trying to make money off of it, I would have to do it because I just, it needs to come out. That's my free time.
Yeah, like a lot of creators, right? That is like, okay, I need to do something.
Yes.
And so what else is good for you, and the relaxation, like how do you recharge yourself, to stay like also mentally positive and keep on going?
Mm-hmm. I love to be in nature. Nature is a huge inspiration for me. Even things just like seeing textures or fractals are something that's always been really intriguing to me. And I use it in my art and because I see it in nature and I studied it and it's something. So I love to go out and walk, to go to natural places and see things. There's a lake nearby where we live that we can walk around, and there's birds and things. I love to go there. Other ways to recharge, I like to watch like fantasy TV shows. That's always really fun to get into the story and things like that. I love stories as well. And, sometimes I do like Tai Chi, a little bit of martial arts, things like that to, relax the body, strengthen my body. Just a lot of different things. I love art-related things. We also play music. My family, we have like a music band. So
so cool. I cannot do anything with music, like zero, nothing.
Oh, I'm sure you could try.
I don't want to hear.
We'll go and have a gig or something, or just go and hang out somewhere and play outdoors and things like that. I don't know. There's so many ways to refresh and recharge, for sure.
Yeah, because like people are sometimes looking for ideas. What else, can I do, right? And is it nature or is it drawing or something like that? Mm-hmm. And so do you, like you mentioned some books or like the fantasy or movies, do you have something you want to recommend?
Oh, goodness. For fantasy, well, one of my favorite series ever when I was a kid was The Chronicles of Prydain. So that one I think is good for all ages. It's a really nice story. It's 5 books, but they're little books. Oh, cool. So, if somebody wants a good, simple, easy to read fantasy story, that's a good one. Don't pay attention to the Black Cauldron movie. That's from that same series. Terrible. They mangled the story and everything. Don't worry about that. Just read the books. But yeah, no, I mean, movies, I love Star Trek and Marvel Universe and all these things. I'll take it all in. There's always something to learn from all the different ones. I love to learn about story structure and character development and these kind of things. So I just feel that everything that you can watch can be an opportunity to learn. Even watching movies, I like to see how the light is. The production design is one of my favorite things that people I don't think they notice it because that's the idea, right? You're just in the world, you're not thinking about it, but it's such an amazing art, Yeah. So yeah, I'm always watching things.
I always love to do also like studies of like, okay, where do you see in the movie, like Ghibli movies, they always have beautiful backgrounds and they're just, amazing. But yeah, and maybe what are did you take some recent courses or books or something you want to mention which maybe inspired you? I was doing now motion design course recently, so I'm doing more motion design.
Motion design. Oh, wow.
Yeah. So I was like, illustration is not enough. So now I'm doing motion design course and it's actually quite cool. So I can link it also below if someone wants to check out motion design course.
Oh, yeah. No, definitely. I mean, in the beginning, I always used books to study because there wasn't YouTube and these kind of resources, and now I see people like, oh, do you know how to do this? And I'm like, hey, there's like a billion YouTube videos that can tell you,
But if they want to learn from you, right? So that's the thing.
Right. So, but yeah, sometimes if I want to learn how to do something completely different, like I got myself some different materials to experiment with, like resin and things like that. Mm-hmm. And it's great to go online and, find a video or a course that tells me how to do it. I got the light and color course from Art Side of Life, which I loved. That was a really great, I always want to absorb as much as I possibly can when it comes to light and color, because I feel that I really need to conceptualize it to the maximum in order to be able to make sure that I'm conveying correctly. Because, I'll tell you, when I was young, I accidentally painted people green and things like that. So,
well, I mean, that's very cool when you think about it.
But on accident. So, but, by learning and studying more, I get to understand how things mix, better. And so I always want to absorb as much of that subject as I possibly can. So I really like that one a lot. Oh, yeah. But yeah, mostly just trying, experimenting, always observing and then trying. A lot of people, I find that they don't necessarily like to push themselves too much. They just kind of want to stay in a niche. And I think we've all, been there, and at times you want to just be comfortable, but sometimes it's important. And I feel like in the beginning that was a problem for me too. And it took some people who are close to me to really say, hey, go and try this, just like with the color, for me to really push myself to do more and explore more. So that's why, I've tried so many mediums, like acrylic, watercolor, pastel, pencil, colored pencil, all these things, because I just want to try everything now.
Yeah, but I think it's very important now when we have, as you mentioned, so many options. Like we can watch YouTube, we can get like different online courses. By the way, very much thank you for taking the online course. So if someone wants to check it out, I can link it below as well. And also, I'm like always looking for new courses, what I can do, because I mean, if we just stay at the same level, there is always someone, a little bit better than you in some area. So I'm also doing like acrylic course, even though I was like using some acrylics, but I'm like, oh, okay, someone is using it longer probably, so they can give me some tips. And it's just to have something always going on in the background, even though if we're super busy, but to keep the mind entertained in some way, right?
Yes, that's part of that. That's part of being healthy too, is just always keeping the mind learning. They've really proven how when in old age, the people who are more alert and active when they're, like 100, is because they've always been learning something. So it's a very important part of life.
That's true, that's true. And the relationships, that's what I heard as well. Like people with bigger either families or friend circles or whatever, you keep the relationships alive, then they are more healthy and they live longer. So
there you go. See?
That was quite interesting.
I think I'm set for that one. So expect me to be very old.
That's good. That's good. That would be nice. Maybe zombie apocalypse, but okay. Anyway, probably too much fiction movies and sci-fi. And so when we were talking about like developing the skills, so a little bit of online courses, then the books, and so how do you maybe practice nowadays? Do you do like special studies, like developing your own style? Like do you have a focus on that? Like I want to do mermaids and I want to do them more in this color, or what helped you to develop your style?
Well, I mean, I think I love to do the mermaids, like you mentioned. And it's something that, even though it's just like a one thing, I do try to change it and adjust it. I've been trying to, because I have my set colors that I really love because they just vibrate so much to me. They're the ones that are very clear and very bright. But I've been trying to, incorporate more colors that, even though to me, maybe the color is a little more dim, but I know that for other people, they will see it also, So I've been trying to explore more with more variety of colors. Because mermaid is here, which is always exciting for me. Everybody always tells me, oh, what are you going to do for mermaid? I'm excited to see. And so this year I wanted to do something different than just, the beautiful mermaids, which is nice and I enjoy, but I wanted to look for something different. And so I made a prompt list that focuses on ocean conservation. So I have ones that each prompt is regarding a different adversity that the oceans are suffering right now. And so the art that I'm going to be making, or that I'm already making, is a little bit more deep and sometimes more dark, because it's the truth of what it is, of what the ocean
like
suffering that is going on.
And the bleaching, and they're dying,
spills, and the dying corals, and endangered species, overfishing so much. So I think that was a way to also push myself in subject matter to try to, I like to make happy and beautiful, but, to really try to reach a different angle of something that's more meaningful and maybe not happy, but that can maybe bring something happy, which is more awareness. And, so there's different ways that I try to push myself as opposed to just visually, so that's what I'm trying to do right now.
Because mermaid is very good thing to join as well, like also either the message, or if you want to focus on improving, right? Because it's like the challenge, and you want
every
to
day, like
grow,
October, right?
yeah. Exactly. So now you're creating one mermaid a day, or that's a lot. Yeah.
I only put out, I think, 8 prompts because, as much as I would love to make one every day, with my other work and everything, of course I can't. But at least that way it's, some level of participation. And that's why also I want to make it more meaningful, as opposed to just the challenge of churn it out, you know?
Yes, yeah, definitely. I mean, yeah, that's always super time consuming,
Hard.
but it can help also with growing Instagram if someone is looking into that, like challenges, because people following other people are always interested if you are able to finish the challenge or how much you improve or basically just being part of your journey. So
Very true.
that's
Yes,
yeah, that
yes.
definitely helps. And also when you mentioned the oceans and how we can help, then I think it's like captivating the image first, and then you can read, right? So
Mhm.
it's super cool. Like you're like, oh, this is amazing. Like there is something like behind, right? And then you can like read more about it.
Yes, yes, that's so much the idea. Because, I mean, they say a picture is worth a thousand words, and it really is, or maybe even more sometimes, because, an image can really capture people. Whereas if you're just putting text out there, especially now with so much information, people are just, likely to skim over and not really read things. So yeah, I think that the image is important.
Yeah, yeah, just like
Art's
scrolling and then yeah,
Yes, I think art is
forever.
more important now than ever, especially on the world of the internet, because it's the way to capture somebody's attention.
And when you mentioned also the merchandise and your art on the side and your business, what would be something you want to do like in maybe 5 to 10 years? Like what are you thinking? Like, okay, this would be kind of like my dream scenario.
Oh goodness. Well, I mean, I'm not sure if I've planned like 10 years because in my life things have always changed. Like if I plan too far ahead, then things take another path, and I'm like, wow, this is even cooler than I thought. So I've gotten out of the habit of like planning way ahead because I'm like, well, let's see, where the path goes. But I have some ideas that, I want to get. I want to do like a coloring book, things like that, so people can, have the opportunity to enjoy that. I have a top secret project that's related to inspiration. I haven't mentioned anything yet because I'm still working on it, but it's something that I've been conceptualizing for a few years, and I really want to get it out there. It's going to be like a kit, let's say. So that's something that definitely I want to nurture and see if I can get it to grow because I think it will help a lot of people. So that's like my secret baby project. I have graphic novel ideas for, oh gosh, one I think like 8 years now that I haven't really had the time to sit and work on those. So, maybe one day people will see that from me once, things settle down and I can have more employees or things like that. Then maybe I can, sit down in my retirement age and make a graphic novel or something. You never know.
Yeah, you can maybe do it sooner, maybe
Maybe sooner.
next year, maybe, I don't know.
Yes, yes. Now all the comics are online though too, so
Yes.
have to evolve with the times. Maybe
On,
it'll be an interactive comic. Maybe
yeah.
it'll be a 3D virtual comic.
So
Like
like
I said,
yeah, zoom and
yes.
slide and
Go with
music with music as well.
yes, with music too. See, so just going with the flow. That's what I'm saying. You never know what type of things can come out. Definitely in the realm of the well-being business, we want to really grow it where we can have a big place and people can come and they can stay for a week or something like that and be doing projects and workshops and really grow it. So that's something that I'm definitely looking forward to.
Yeah. Are you guys doing also retreats, that you go to mountains or something like that?
Yeah, like that would be the idea where we can have a place
So
that people
not
can.
not yet.
Not yet, but that would be definitely a future plan for sure.
Yeah, you should come
Yeah.
to Switzerland for a retreat.
I know.
So, but yeah, I think
Well,
people like that. Yeah, sorry.
I hear that it's beautiful.
I mean, it's a nice nature, but there is a lot of nice nature places. But yeah, I think people like to go to mountains, right? Because it has just a different vibe, and then you can do all the activities which you guys provide, and then it's just more relaxing. It's kind of
Yeah,
emphasized, right? Yeah.
absolutely. Yeah, so that's the one thing that's really solid. The rest, the art stuff, is always ephemerous. That one's solid.
And when you are planning a new project, also we talked about a little bit of creative process. So it's also drawing, but how is your process? Like from start to beginning, do you do like mind maps or, this kind of like planning? Because you mentioned that you are Googling a lot, but is there something else you do? Like, do you lock yourself in a room and you draw on the walls or, something?
If only it was so dramatic. No, I
That would be cool though.
mostly. Yeah, mostly I just get ideas, in my head. Honestly, I have so many different visual ideas and not enough time for them. So, I kind of go through this conglomeration of things and see what I'm kind of like, which mood I'm in. And then, I'll say, oh, I had that idea that I wanted to work on this one, and yeah, that one is a good, like, it's kind of like pick from the plethora, be like, today and then I always sketch, even if it's digital, I make a sketch digitally, or I'll make a sketch on paper. Sometimes paper always flows better for some reason. It's just the pencil. There's something about, a physical pencil that is just, I don't know, so nice. But so I always sketch out the idea, and, mostly it's working on poses, just getting the pose how I want it, trying to transfer, the mental image to the paper image. And sometimes it's not, because it's the same as like when you have your eyes and when you have a camera, like you can take a picture of what you see, but it's not the same. So I think sometimes when I'm imagining something, it's more like with a vision of my eyes, and then trying to translate that to the 2D, I think is what makes me need to kind of sketch and readjust and everything until I get it in a way that, in the two-dimensional way, that feels, on par with what I'm imagining. And then from there, I usually don't plan out colors, strange as it seems, because I kind of just visualize the colors in my mind, like, if I want this more cool here or more warm there, or what I want to do. And then I just kind of go for it. And, in the digital, it's nice to be able to always adjust colors. In the watercolor, one of the reasons that I really like that is because of that unpredictable nature that it has. Like I was saying, I really love fractals and things like that. And so, yeah, when you put the watercolor and let it blend, it does its own sort of magic. So I like to really utilize that to the maximum that I can. So if I'm too over controlled with the watercolor, like trying to get something exactly how I want it, then I don't have that little bit of magic. So when I'm working with a medium like that, I really just kind of go layer by layer and seeing what unfolds, and then, oh, I like what's happening here, let's build on that, or that kind of thing. So that's what makes it relaxing too, I think.
Yeah.
Is to just kind of let it unfold a little bit.
And from the traditional tools, do you have also like a favorite paper or favorite watercolor brush or paint?
Gosh, so far from the different paints that I've used, I really liked the Prima watercolor. Those were really thick and pigmented, and they had a little bit of granulation. I was recently given for my birthday the test sheets from Daniel Smith, because I'm always like drooling after Daniel Smith. So they gave me that has like every single color. So I'm really looking forward to seeing that. If you ask me in another interview in a few weeks, I might tell you that now it's Daniel Smith. We'll see.
He's like good.
Yes. And paper, I don't think I've had like a particular one yet. I'm always trying new brands. I feel like I'm always looking for like that perfect one, and like I still haven't found it. So I'm always trying. I think the brand Strathmore overall really offers me a good quality that I can work with. But I don't have like an ideal one as of yet. And brushes, I always use synthetic, just because, like, while squirrel hair is amazing, I can't bring myself to use animal hair brushes.
It's just weird, like taking a squirrel from the tree, like, okay, I'll just paint with you.
Yes, so I'll always just use like a synthetic sable, something like that. Even with acrylic, I like the softer synthetic brushes. I never really like the bristle brushes or things like that. Yeah. And then, and always pencils. I like to have, not a lot of people do. I mean, some people are amazing with just like a 2B, but I always like to have like a 2H and like a 2B and like a 4 or 6B. Yeah. Because I really like to get that range, to be able to make the very light values and then the very dark values. To me, value is very important because, and as I found out, because I've studied, I like science, right? So I've studied a lot about the color blindness aspect to really understand it, like to the most depths. And we actually tend to see values more clearly because we're not so engulfed by, color. So,
that's so true.
So for me, I really like when I'm doing pencil to get, those values in there. So if anybody's doing pencil art, I would definitely suggest get yourself an array of pencils, because it's going to be so much easier to really get the strong values.
Because for me, I like to use more one pencil, and there are like few brands which are like able to kind of mimic more pencils, like a little bit like softer and higher. So of course, it's not the same, but for me, it's just like, oh, another pencil, and I'm like, yeah, just one, you know. It's like it's
Definitely for
always
sketching, it's easier to just like,
yeah, yeah,
get it
yeah, yeah.
out. But like for, I have a lot of people that I'll do commissions of
Hmm.
like doing them as a mermaid in
Hmm.
pencil.
Yeah.
So for those, I definitely like to pull out my, array of pencils and get in
Ah, that's
there.
so
But
cool.
for
Yeah.
sketching, it's easy to do like one.
And when you mentioned like the commissions, are they coming from Instagram? If someone wants to do like, how do I start first commissions?
Yeah, I mean, I do get some from Instagram. Surprisingly, I got a lot from Facebook, even though on Facebook I only have like 500 followers.
Uh-huh.
But what I will do is post in groups.
Yeah.
So, like a group that's based on what your niche or what your style is. So, like, I would, get one commission and then I would go and post that finished one in like a group of mermaids, which there are groups with like, 4,000 mermaid enthusiasts in them. And then, people show them to the people or share it. And it kind of happens like that. Mostly, I don't really advertise commissions. It's just that the people come to me. I mean, even if you look on my Instagram right now, it says commissions closed just because, I have so much that I'm keeping up with
Yeah.
that I don't want people to have to wait like, 6 months for me to finish their commission artwork. But I still get people coming to me through other venues like Facebook or, through a private message that they saw one that somebody else had or something. So it's just about getting out there and really sharing. Instagram can be hard because,
Yeah.
it's
There's a lot of
just,
people.
yes, exactly. And you are trying to reach everyone, without any kind of, I mean, there's the hashtags, but it's very strange lately, and sometimes it doesn't even really show you to your own followers, show your posts lately.
Yeah.
So I find that doing the Facebook groups helped a lot because it was easier to get it to, more of a maybe the market
Yeah,
that
yeah,
I'm
more
looking.
specific people. Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
definitely. And
Yeah.
yeah, because then it's more like, for example, the mermaids, right? So you do mermaid art, and then the group is about like a mermaid enthusiasts. So they share, I guess, also like mermaid fashion, maybe photo location, accessories, and these kind of things, I guess.
Yeah, and a lot of people with like tails and that they, perform as mermaids professionally and that kind of thing. So a lot of my commissions have been from those type of people as well, that they, say, hey, can you draw my mersona, it's called.
Oh, that's so cool. I
So
didn't
like,
know that.
uh-huh. Yeah. And then sometimes from Etsy too. I have just the pencil drawing one up on Etsy.
Uh-huh.
And I get a good amount of people also asking. They send me a photo and then, I get them a lot as gifts. I
Yeah.
think art commissions are really good if you want to advertise that, if people want to mention that it makes a great gift. I get a lot of those that people say, oh, my sister loves mermaids. Can you turn her into a mermaid? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's nice too. It always feels like exciting to be part of like a gift or surprise like that.
Yeah, because
I
then
enjoy.
people are happy, or they can have it also framed at home or something, and it's very personal. So
Yeah.
it's super great. I mean, you like shared super great actionable steps, I think, for people. So like now no one can complain that they're not getting commissions from Instagram. Like go research Facebook groups. Yeah. Also posting on LinkedIn surprisingly help because there are
Really?
different types of people, so you can share your art and someone from the community might see it. So you're not competing with other artists mainly
Mhm.
there, but yeah, so Facebook groups, Etsy, okay, maybe LinkedIn. So very good ideas. And before we finish, I would like to know as well, like, what would you like to be remembered for in 100 years or more, the epicness?
Such a big question. I think for me, what I find really touches my soul the most is when people are inspired, when I did something to spark some kind of inspiration. So whether that's, working with the people here that they are, doing something creative when they've never done it, and then they, start to get more into art. Or even like sometimes there's like young teenagers on Instagram that will make a drawing and say, this was inspired by this artwork from, Holly Fae. And, she really inspired me to make a sketch or to make a drawing. And it just really touches me. And I think that if anything, that I'd like that there were people that were inspired that kept making art. So in 100 years, maybe that will trickle down, from one person to another person. And if I could be part of that seed, then I think that would be what would be the most that I would like to be remembered for.
Oh, that's super nice. Yeah, I'm sure that a lot of people are inspired and then we can keep inspiring each other. I think that's super nice. And that's why I also like these interviews because, so many different stories. And yeah, so hope everyone who is listening now, it's also inspired. And yeah, and also before we finish, yeah, right? I was like, yes, hopefully. Yeah, and before we finish, I also want to mention to you guys listening or watching that, yeah, I started the Patreon if you haven't noticed. So it would be super nice, like if someone, wants to, support the interviews because, yeah, I need your help, guys. So it would be very nice. And if you can't, then also commenting or just liking the videos or whatever, it's also great. So
likes and comments help a lot,
definitely. People. So thank you so much again for the interview. And yeah, see you next time.
Thank you.
Bye, guys.